Okay, let's see. All right. Good evening, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion on Tropical Storm Debby as it remains a threat to southeastern Georgia, northern Florida right now. Still a pretty organized system. Nevertheless, this is not a done situation for areas that do live in the Carolinas. Lots of heavy rainfall will continue for several days. This is a very unfortunate situation for anyone that does live over here. Gonna get just pounded and pounded and pounded with these feeder bands. Some of these producing water spouts, tornadoes. We had a couple of tornadoes today in this area, and we're probably going to see more before the system is done. The good news is this is moving away from the Big Bend of Florida now, but still some strong winds coming out of the northwesterly direction with this. And this system, Debbie's going to encounter really weak steering currents and might even stall out briefly before it supposedly will turn to the north here towards North Carolina. There's a possibility that even happens because there are still some models that bring this back west. There are some models that bring this to the northwest, and there's just some models that bring this over here into the North Carolina area. So to be quite honest, there's a lot of uncertainty in this forecast. So it could still impact Florida, head back towards Florida, Georgia, North or South Carolina. Or might as well maybe go back out to sea still. So we're seeing some wild outcomes with this system still. And we probably won't ever know what will happen until Debby starts moving, whichever direction that is. Then we'll know better who's going to get impacted. So looking at the infrared satellite imagery here on Debby's structure, and we can see it is definitely breaking down in the middle here. We're not seeing any very deep convection. And this is what we call now a drying out system, where there's more drier air wrapping in around the system, but there is still sufficient moisture where we are still seeing tropical storm force winds. And now most recently, we've had this big burst of deep convection blow up on the far western or eastern side of the circulation, which indicates to me once Debby emerges out over the water again, this is probably going to re-strengthen slightly, not significantly now. We're not seeing that happen here in latest model guidance, and we'll show you that here in a second. In fact, we'll show you the track and then move forward with that. So this is a look at the track forecast. This is the spaghetti plot from the hurricane model track guidance, the dynamical models that is. And again, once this moves back, it's really even hard to see where this is going to go because right now it's probably, it's right here. And models still think it's going to go here and then over here and then out. So really weird situation. And some models have this, literally the HWFI model want this going back onshore again over Georgia and even Florida, where literally it came from. And then even into Alabama, where other models have this going to the northwest and then moving over New York. The majority of the models do have this going onshore and then turning out towards the northeast along and just brimming the northeastern seaboard here of New York, Cape Cod, as well as, say, if you are in New Jersey. But it will probably be a lot weaker by then because it's going to be spending a lot of time over land once it moves back onshore again after it moves over the waters. But we do know for a fact that this will be moving over the waters of the Atlantic, which at time it might be able to re-strengthen just a little bit. So we can see the intensity model guidance from the dynamical side of things. We can see winds are at 40 knots right now, actually about 45 knots, even 40 or 35 knots, which is 40 to 45 mile an hour winds on Debby right now. And we can see there's a decent spread here between a tropical depression in 24 hours and a mid-grade tropical storm. But thank goodness we're not seeing re-intensification into a hurricane here. And most of the model guidance, including myself, do indicate subtle weakening and then some strengthening, probably back up to about 45 to 55 miles an hour before it weakens dramatically down below tropical storm intensity once it moves back on shore, say somewhere in the Carolina coast or even Georgia coast beyond that time frame, which is in about 4 or 5 days. So yeah, the entire week we will be still talking about Debby, believe it or not, and then maybe re-strengthening should it move back over water again, this time near, say, Nova Scotia in Canada. This is a look at the latest track. Actually, let me go to our numerical models. Let me bring that up, and then we will be looking at the NHC. So let's do this and go to our European model. So we can see our system right here, European doing pretty good at this. Not bad at all with its forecast. And so when we go forward here, it moves offshore. So you can see it kind of dancing around. So it moves over Savannah, Georgia in about 27 hours. And then moves back offshore, possibly re-strengthens. And it might do it quite dramatically here, possibly down to 982 millibars once it moves back on shore over, say, South Carolina and even Wilmington, North Carolina, and then it moves back out. And that's what most of our hurricane dynamical models indicate, that it's going to do something like this. It's going to turn out once it moves on shore. So that's that. And the reason why that happens is if we go and look at our steering flow. So let's look at our height anomaly. Actually, let's go to this. This is a little bit better outlook. And this is the normalized anomaly of our heights, our geopotential heights. This is basically a topographical map of the atmosphere. Thicker heights are higher pressure in the mid-levels. So you can see a ridge here and another ridge over here, like so. And so the European shows that. But watch what happens when we go forward further out here by 36 hours. We can see there is where we have Tropical Storm Debby at this point. And then the problem here is you have this ridge that wants to try to build westward, and you still have this ridge that is influencing. And so there's really a block here to the north because there's not much troughs, not like a sharp trough that is like this, that is able, because if you think about it, if a trough is like this and you got Debby here, it's likely to go out in this general direction and then move back on shore. But in this case, there's really not much background westerly flow or southwesterly flow, or even at times a southerly flow to usher this back on shore right away, and so to prevent intensification. Unfortunately, this is going to spend some time out over the waters because of this situation. It's not until we get into, say, 66 hours, we then have an upper level disturbance that moves into the northern plains and then into the Great Lakes at this time, which at time this ridge is able to remain flat, and this ridge is able to remain rather flat and not able to build towards the north. And so the ending result here is that the system will be able to feel the tug on this trough over the northern plains. And the ending result here will be that the system, watch this, it's going to be able to get absorbed into that trophy like flow regime as that moves on through. So that, with that being said, here's a look at the NHC forecast. Now, actually, if we look at the GFS model forecast, there is a lot of differences on this forecast. The GFS, which by the way is, we're looking out to 4 days out on this forecast. So you can see the GFS has this over Georgia. If we go to the European model at the exact same time frame, yeah, this is way over here. What is it doing over North Carolina when we have the GFS that is way back here over Georgia? So there is definitely a lot of uncertainty with the deterministic forecast, and even the ensemble forecast is showing a big difference between these scenarios. So it's going to be a waiting game essentially at this point. The only thing we could say we could rely somewhat on is the NHC. This is the latest graphical look at the NHC forecast. We can see there is Debby expected to move back or move northeast and then move offshore a little bit, and then move back onshore, where again, tropical storm warnings and watches are already out for South Carolina and portions there of, say, Wilmington, North Carolina. Now, when you see this map, you're like, wow, that at least they know where it's going, but still there's a lot of uncertainty. We can see where this cone goes out to. This is a really large uncertainty. This could still theoretically move over Western Virginia, not West Virginia, but the western end of the state here of the Maine of Virginia, or hey, staying offshore where it won't bother as many people, except bringing some impacts like heavy rain and gusty winds to Cape Hatteras. So you can see the discontinuity within this track forecast, really uncertain, yet to be wrinkled out on the models. But also, it is something to be also weary of. This is moving very slow, and just how slow this is going to be moving. These are 6 or 12 hourly forecast points. So we have Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon. It's Monday evening here. Okay, this has almost 24 more hours over Georgia. That is a lot more time over land before it reemerges out off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina. And then it's only here by Wednesday afternoon. And then look at this. This is Thursday afternoon. So this is pretty much towards the end of the work week, where it has not moved very much. This is going to slow even more considerably than where it's at right now. It's moving at 6. I would not be surprised if this moves or slows down to, say, 2 or 3 miles an hour. Really a slow moving system. And then by Friday afternoon, it's only into North Carolina. This is not a good situation. Not good at all. Something that moves this slow could really lead to a lot of flood problems. Historic flooding, catastrophic, however you want to put it. And here's a look at the additional rainfall totals. This is from the Weather Prediction System. Actually, the Weather Prediction Center, WPC, that is. Some of these areas, like Charleston, Mount Pleasant, could still get 2 feet. A little over actually near 2 feet of rain. Sorry, I got my inches and feet conversion there incorrect. So 20 to maybe almost 24 inches of rainfall. Now let's go to Doppler radar really quickly, because I wanted to show you just how much rainfall they have had so far. They are getting a lot of rainfall with this system right now. It is raining pretty good in Charleston. If we look at our storm total precipitation so far, the portions of Charleston based on Doppler radar have had 3 inches of rainfall. So that's an additional 20 inches in some areas. That's 2 feet of rainfall in some of these areas. So that is a very, very, very big concern. There will be catastrophic impacts, unfortunately. In fact, some areas here, like South Carolina, even further south you go, Hamilton Head Island, you've had already 5 to 6 inches of rainfall over these areas, and more additional rainfall is expected. In fact, there is a tornado warning right now over this area, so just be aware of that. These stalled out bands could bring repeated tornado chances to the same area, and also just a train of flooding when these bands just don't move at all, because the system's not moving very much at all. There's going to be a lot of enhanced rainfall and flood potential over these areas. So again, my thoughts and prayers go out to all of those people that do live in Charleston, also Beaufort here in South Carolina. This could be an unsurvivable situation potentially, with storm surge impacts up to 4 feet, and combine that with 2 feet of rainfall. It's not going to end very well, and we can see that here. So additional rainfall to come, 20 inches, including the 1 to 3 inches that has already fallen over these areas. That makes 2 feet of rainfall theoretically when you think about it. This is not what you want to hear about when you are in Charleston. And someone told me yesterday, Charleston is prone to sinking, losing elevation because of how much rainfall there could be in this system. Wilmington, North Carolina, you could get a foot of rainfall. About half an inch of rain has already fallen in this area. Some of the outer bands, you're going to get additional rainfall. Raleigh up here and Cape Hatteras, you're going to be seeing anywhere between 8 to maybe 12 inches of rainfall. Charlotte over here, 4 to 6 inches. And yes, I know the map does not go that far north, but say areas like Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., yes, this is for you, DJ Tech Gaming, that is on in the stream right now. You could see as much as maybe 6 to 8 inches of rainfall. Yeah, I mean, that is really far from, well, where Debby is. And if Debby kind of does this, you're going to get a lot of rain impacts as well. So some flood problems up there in downtown New York. Until, while this remains a threat, we will probably be doing live streams every day on this. Just like, you know, as long as it's a big enough threat, we will be keeping you updated. So here's a look at the peak storm surge forecast right now. 2 to 4 feet is expected over Cape Fear. Yeah, it's probably time to fear a little bit if you're on that area, because you're going to be seeing some of the worst flooding in history, perhaps, and even down to the southwest. And this whole area going to get up to 4 feet of storm surge, maybe locally higher, depending on the exact extent of strengthening that Debby has. And so it doesn't surprise me if you maybe get an isolated area that has storm surge of up to maybe 5 feet with this in some of these estuaries, some of these forebays, be a really big problem. And they, again, combine that to freshwater flooding, this could be a really, really, really big problem. Really big problem. Actually, it will be a really big problem. Not, it may be a big problem. So let's go and look at our risk for flooding right now. And actually, I'm going to bring up the extent version of this map. So let me go to the WPC here. And let's go to the... there's actually a high risk. Yeah, so that's what we're seeing. So, come on. All right, we have a new tornado warning. So, where's that at? Okay, that's over here. So there is some tornado activity, some severe weather activity that's happening in southern Minnesota right now. We'll briefly talk about this, but then we have to take a look at the tropics. So Austin, boy, some deep rotation on some of these right now. If you're in Dexter, Grand Meadow, please take shelter. Again, just a quick update that there is now 3 tornado warnings out in this general area. We have a tornado watch out, so keep that in mind. Some tornado genesis going on with some disturbing weather up there to the north. So now back to, actually, you know what? Actually, I can use my radar Omega. Okay. Come on. This has not updated. No, it hasn't. So we won't be using that. All right. So sorry about that. So that is outdated for some area. So not just down here, but all the way up here, there is flood potential because of how moist and energetic Debby actually is. And not to mention, there's even a slight risk over here of flooding over southern Arizona due to the monsoon. Been a really wicked monsoon season. So keep that in mind. Big time flooding across the eastern seaboard. It is very interesting. Right in between all of it, there is not much going on in the east central Virginia, state of Virginia. Not going to see hardly any impact. Actually, this might be a different day. If we actually go to day 1, might help out a little bit. Come on. Looks like there's a lot of high traffic demand on this website. So I'm so sorry if it keeps going out on us. And come on. This is not the time for this to act up on us. So let's go to day 1, and I hope my internet did not go out at all. Because I cannot receive anything at all on this website. So, and it probably did. No, it didn't. So we still have internet. So that is good. So unfortunately, we're not able to bring you the flood issue. We're just gonna have to use the map that we have. But just take my word on it. There is actually a slight risk over here in Norfolk. So this is probably for the first or third days, and then up over here there is a moderate risk for heavy rainfall. So keep that in mind. If you're up here in New York, moderate risk for heavy rainfall. Philadelphia down here. If you're in Baltimore, keep that in mind too. Some heavy rainfall impacts are expected. And we will wait to see if that actually loads. So here's a look at the earliest reasonable time of tropical storm force winds here and the chances. So there is technically a non-zero chance over Delaware and New Jersey that could have a 5 to 10% risk for some tropical storm force winds. That won't get there until Friday morning because this is going to really slow down. This is not going to be moving very fast at all at first. And the higher chances are across South Carolina and North Carolina, where Debby is likely to re-strengthen slightly to a more of a low to mid-grade tropical storm, where there's a 30 to 40% chance of tropical storm force winds, okay? 30 to 40% that is. So, looking at tropical storm Debby discussion here, again, Debby continues to move through the weakness in the subtropical high to the north. That's what we talked about. And the forward motion speed has slowed to about 6 knots. That's not very fast. This is really drifting now. The cyclone is expected to turn eastward while moving quite slowly in a region of weak steering currents for the next couple of days. This motion should bring the center of the system back over the water by late Tuesday. And just for another tab I wanted to show you all, let's go to the key messages here, and we can see that, again, potential historic heavy rainfall across the southeastern Georgia of what they mentioned there in their discussion. This is going to lead to catastrophic flooding, perhaps in rare occasions, unsurvivable flooding. You cannot swim in this. This is unsurvivable criteria, especially over Charleston, South Carolina. I don't use that word very often in my live streams under that high risk for flood impacts, because you can even see it here on the thumbnail. This is going to be moving slow, prolonged period of heavy rainfall through the entire work week. This is not just a few days or just a 24-hour period. This is going to last well into Thursday, Friday, even maybe Saturday. So imagining the entire work week, you're going to just see cloudy skies, maybe a couple of breaks of sun, but it's going to just be a lot of rainfall otherwise in this area. And that's just because of how slow the nature of Debby is. She just does not want to get out of the way. She just wants to sit around on her lazy butt for a while. So that's what we're dealing with right now with Debby. And actually a couple of other people are saying now there's a tornado potentially on the ground in southern Wisconsin. So there is severe weather there. Part of a different situation. It's all the way up here. We do have storms that are moving into southeastern, say in Minnesota. There is some really tight rotation on this, so that is interesting. There's no debris yet. Again, we're probably going to have to keep an eye on these storms, just a couple of them, in southeastern Minnesota, because there is impactful weather down there, and the tornado watch does extend into northeastern Iowa. So we will keep you updated if necessary on that, if things really change in a hurry. We also have a tornado warning in my neck of the expertise here on the tropics in Point Royal, Beaufort. Right now, we do have some decent rotation on that. We also have another area of rotation. This is probably going to get tornado warned as this moves onshore into Ediso Beach. So yeah, this feeder band right here with deep convection is really augmenting the tornado threat in this area. And we're already getting some flood reports here. Law enforcement in this area did report flooded waters entering through the front door of a home. along Wrongton Circle. So we're seeing flooded waters onto a front door. We're also seeing 7 inches, maybe up to a foot of water across a highway here. So we are seeing some storm surge and also some freshwater flooding with this. There's already getting reports of flooding all throughout the South Carolina area. This is not good at all because it's only going to get more widespread as we go through the next 4 or 5 days. So yeah, this is where the center is right now. If we bring up our Doppler radar, not very well organized by any means. This is where our circulation is, just to the north of Jacksonville, where we do have that heavy rainfall and some breezy wind, or some pretty strong winds still here of at least 40 to 50 miles an hour. This is a big situation unfolding. Thank you for becoming a Tropical Storm member. I do appreciate that very much. I am working on merchandise, and what do you know? Out of the blue, we do have that tornado warning now issued for Ediso Beach. I kind of thought that would get issued because, yeah, there is a lot of rotation. There are a couple of cells down here in Seabrook Island. We have a storm here, and we have another storm here, really rotating. Not on the ground right now. Doesn't surprise me if we do have a water spout in this area. I'll just call you Sanity, the one that did become a Tropical Storm member. Your first part is probably just a few letters. So yeah, I'll just call you Sanity. So we do have a tornado right here, a water spout, soon to become a tornado once it gets on shore. And look at these winds right here, 85 to 90 miles an hour. That is really strong. That is definitely impactful. You got to understand that, okay, you're not probably seeing tropical storm force winds. Actually, you're getting close to that. You're getting winds of 25 to 35 miles an hour. But because we have really intense convection here and down bursts, potentially you're going to see that momentum transfer. Remember, we have certain tropical storm force winds aloft here, winds of about 70 to 80 miles an hour, perhaps hurricane force within this band. So you could imagine that this is going to, some of that wind is going to be momentumly transferred down to the surface. So if you're in Point Royal, Beaufort, Ediso Beach, Hollywood, you got to really be aware of this. This is a tornado warning now for another 45 to 50 minutes perhaps. And it cannot be stressed enough. There is a lot of rain occurring in this area. In fact, if we go to Ediso Beach, there's been 3 inches of rain. Yeah, some populated areas over here getting 3 inches of rain in the last hour. That is absolutely incredible to hear. 3 inches of rain according to Doppler radar. And some of these pixels here even approaching perhaps 3¼ inches of rain in the last hour. That is a tremendous amount of water accumulating in a very small area. We saw one of these bands actually setting up over Sarasota yesterday where it led to a considerable flash flood warning. Possibly, I think it even got upgraded briefly to a flood emergency. So these feeder bands can be a huge problem. They can be very, very bad. So now looking at that rotation now, yeah, this velocity really intensifying, and this is going to be moving over Ediso Island here in a second. Look at these velocities, almost 90-mile-an-hour velocities on this going toward the radar. That is a tremendous amount of wind energy, and we even have reds increasing on the southern side, though. So this is intensifying this rotation signature. We have another area that is intensifying. We have another area here over Seabrook in South Carolina that is beginning to intensify. So if you are in this area, you're not only witnessing some tremendous amounts of rainfall, enough to cause significant flooding in a short amount of time, but you're also going to be looking at water spouts and perhaps some tornadoes. And some of them could be fairly strong given what we're seeing on velocity right now. So If you're in this area, you need to move to higher ground because there's flooding, but you also need to get into a storm shelter too if you're encountering this tornado warning. Port Royal, you're also under a tornado warning at the moment. And if we look at our 1 hour storm total precipitation amounts here, you're also looking at quite a bit of rainfall. I mean, 2 inches here almost. Actually, yeah, that is 2 inches over Beaufort right now. That's a lot of water in this whole area. Also, another little area, Springfield in Georgia, that is getting a lot of rainfall. Some of these areas, 2.5 inches. These are 1 hour rain totals. If you wanna see that for yourself, right down here, 1 hour precipitation totals. If we go to the storm totals so far, this area has only seen 6 inches, but that is going to really go up in a hurry. Ediso Beach, only 5 inches so far since the storm moved into that area, and then 7 inches offshore. We're going to probably see a lot of purple colors on this in the next couple of days, as the rain is just not going to stop. It's just going to continue. And we just got a new update on Doppler radar right now. Man, some of these areas, 3.5 inches. Actually, depending on what radar site you actually use will depend. But either way, this is an estimate of rainfall, not an actual how much has already fallen. But I can guarantee you there's definitely a lot of flooding happening in this area with that tornado that is going on. Yeah, look at this. We got 3 individual areas, actually 4. So we got one here, we got one moving on shore, we got another one getting ready, and then just all lining up, all of this. A lot of vorticity, a lot of localized shear over this band. And so you can imagine we're going to see a lot of rotation, water spouts. Some of them could be strong water spouts and then become tornadoes once they move onshore. And yeah, we're getting a new radar scan. This is now 90 mile an hour velocity. So that is still strengthening. So if you're downstream of this, you really need to get it into your storm shelter. It could either be a tremendous amount of wind. Wind's probably about, say, at times peaking up to hurricane force only briefly. Or you can just simply see near tropical storm force winds, just depending on where you're at. This is headed for New England, yes. So areas like, say, New York, if we can bring our flood map out, if this hopefully is updated. There it goes. It has now updated. That's what I wanted to see. So, yes. So if you're in Pennsylvania, there is a moderate risk. This is a very populated area. New York is very, very densely populated. You can even see here if we zoom in, all the streets here. So this is impacting over 40 million people, perhaps, just in this, actually maybe more than 75 million. And you're under a moderate risk. So this could be total devastation, power outages, that sort of thing. It's just very unfortunate to hear about this. Just not only a southeast threat, but this is a northeast threat too, with even a marginal risk thereafter. And actually, yeah, so this is day 2 up here, a moderate risk, but interesting enough, we go to day 3, the risk is still down here. So for the next 3 days, especially over Charleston, you're going to have a high risk. That is a serious situation. 3 days in a row, there's going to be a high risk for flooding in that area. A trio of days, that is. What's up, Titan? How are you doing? So this is what we're going to be watching. Okay, that area of rotation now moving onshore over Ediso Beach right now. Velocities have dropped to now 75 or so. So rotation is weakening a little bit with that storm. But again, these feeder bands, these stall out for a while, especially on the northern quadrant. You could have rainfall constantly for the next 3 or 4 days, even 5 days perhaps. That's a really big problem when you have rain that long. So when we look at our H-Wharf model, actually we're going to look at a more reliable run because that's a more likely an outlier. So this is probably what we're going to be using. Sorry about that, everyone. It's dinner time for me, but this is really important. As I did promise you guys I would go live today. Took a nap because I wasn't feeling well earlier, but I feel better. So you can see here, through Tuesday morning, through tomorrow morning, again, raining over the same areas. Yeah, raining. Charleston up here, going to get a lot of rainfall. This is according to, again, the HAVS A model. This is a hurricane-specific model that we like to use. And when we go forward, it's just going to rain. Rain and rain and rain. Just forever and ever. Now, you have breaks in here, but the model may not be doing a very good job at illustrating the coverage of that. I think we're going to have a little bit more than what the model is actually showing. So if we look at our water imagery here, we do have a lot of moisture in the deep layers of the atmosphere on that system. And looking at the total rainfall in that area, again, some areas could get 20 inches of additional rainfall. That's a very unfortunate situation. The HAVS B parent, a similar outcome, probably even more rain. Look at this. Maybe even some areas here could see as much as 24 inches of additional rainfall. You're getting it right now, and you're going to get more of it. And in fact, if we zoom in, we can see some of these bands early on in the forecast. Look how intense these bands are. Really, really intense. And that's what we gotta really be aware of, definitely, with those bands. By the way, if you guys are enjoying the stream, please consider subscribing, all right? As long as this remains an imminent threat right now, we're going to be doing a live stream on this every single day. Every single day. If that's in the morning or if that's in the afternoon, more than likely going to be in the evening, like what we did today, because of what we're seeing. So again, if you guys haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. And also hit that bell icon to get latest updates, and also chat with us in the stream. Let me turn on the fan. It's a little bit warm today, but finally, by the end of this week, our heat wave will be officially done. Oh, I'm feeling a lot better, Moon. Noggin. I'm feeling way better, honestly. Yeah, it's nothing too significant. I was tired, but my stomach was really painful. I get stomach migraines once in a while, so that's the thing that makes me really tired. So probably something I ate did not agree to my stomach and just did not make me feel well, but now I feel way, way better. Luckily, I did not get nauseated this time. Usually, sometimes if I have these stomach migraines, I feel like I'm just gonna puke. I'm just gonna vomit. This time, I did not feel like that. And that was a good thing, because I did not want to feel like terrible on a stream, but I feel way better. I'm just way better. How are you doing? Tons of soup. How are you doing? I remember you from last night's stream. For those that did watch me last night, I still want to thank you all for tuning into that stream. We warned over 80,000 people with that, so I do want to thank you all for that. And so thank you. And interesting, after the stream, I laid down, but I couldn't go to sleep until like 3:30 last night. That was a disappointment. But I did lay down right after the stream. I did lay down, but I just could not fall asleep until like 3:30. What areas could get potentially flooded? If we take a look at our rainfall map here, not that. So if we go to here, especially, you know what? Let's go to this map. That's a little bit more helpful. Wow, they finally expanded the map. That is nice. Thank you, National Hurricane Center. So it's now a little purple area here. Charleston still expecting to get 20 additional inches of rain. Remember, some of these areas have already seen, I want to repeat myself, have already seen 2 to 3 inches of rain since this morning, since it first started. You're looking at an additional 20 inches, so maybe 2 feet of rainfall before this is all said and done. Look it up here towards New York. You might see 6 to 8 inches of rain. Pretty, very, very densely populated area. If you're in Roanoke, if you're in Charlotte, over here you might get 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. Yes, I will be looking at the models here in a second again. For some of those that are just tuning in, but there's a look at the rainfall. But now looking at the forecast here as far as Debby goes, again, hurricane-specific model here. Very interesting. Once this gets offshore by Tuesday morning, Tuesday early afternoon, the system, interesting, it wants to surface low over here, but this is actually it. So 1,000 millibars, not over here. The model not rendering this properly, so it's still up there along that band. And then we can see it just kind of consolidating slowly and just sitting out here. So the pressure does drop eventually down to 996 millibars before it moves somewhere over in southern North Carolina or in South Carolina. And again, I want to repeat, lots of rainfall and lots of problems here. Eventually, that is expected. All right, now before we do look at the rest of the tropics, because I kind of have to hurry up today, this is not going to be one of those 6-hour streams since this is already onshore. But I did want to show you all, if I'm able to, sometimes some of these you could actually see how much rainfall is going to accumulate. Actually, you can't see very well on this. So let's zoom in. Let's look at the European model over the next several days, or over the next, say, 5 days. And let's go over to the southeast here. So this is, again, looking at the rainfall on the European model, looking at the GFS model, similar outcome here, only a lot further to the southwest because that's where it thinks that the center is going to be. When you look at the HRRR model, not a hurricane-specific model, but you can see here near Charleston, that is going to be very significant. 21 additional inches of rain expected there on that model. When you look at the NAM model, not that model, looking at the NAM, why is the NAM not available? Okay, that is disappointing. The NAM is not available. Probably not rendering or something happened there with that forecast. But let's look at here, the icon showing, again, almost 24 inches of rain. So that's where we looked through the models. Now it's time to move on. I did want to show you all, for the 400 people that are watching, because this is the time to show you all the rest of the tropics before I do head off. I'm not headed off right now, so stay with me, folks. Stay with me. This is not going to be a very long stream at all. Probably only another 10 or so minutes. So let's take a look at the ensemble forecast on the tropics, because we do have other areas out there, other entities that we may have to watch. Of course, this area we still have to watch in the Caribbean, and then another area eventually coming off of Africa. This might become our next area to really watch. There is a 50% chance that this does become a tropical depression in the central Windward Islands. We'll see if that kind of sticks to the model guidance over the next several days. All right, and then maybe another area coming off of Africa. So that's a look at that. And to show you more evidence here, this look at the European ensemble forecast. Again, these are individual members, okay? Different members that are on the same model format. And you can see another area here. This is the first wave. Not much agreement. Not much what word am I looking for? Not much model support. That's what I was looking for, other than maybe the southernmost portion of the Gulf. But then our next wave comes off, and then maybe another wave thereafter we may have to really watch. And then when we go forward, we can see this wave has a huge signal either in the northern Caribbean or simply a fish storm towards Bermuda. Now, just because of what you see here, oh, it's going to be a fish storm, you watch, David, we are not sure yet. This is still new to us. This is a 10-day forecast, and you can see up here there is a tropical storm Debby, and here is our next area that we're going to really need to watch over the next 7 to 10 days. All right. The NHC does not have a highlighted area in that area, which is a sign that there's not enough confidence. But I'll tell you right now, they still have this area out over the northwestern Caribbean. This only has like a 20 to 30% chance of developing, according to the NHC, and that includes for the southern Gulf of Mexico. And there is Tropical Storm Debby. Now, before we move on, I wanted to also show you the Western Pacific, not the Western Pacific. We need to look at the Eastern Pacific. Yes, on the Eastern Pacific, we have 4 named storms. None are going to impact land, but it's something to kind of look over. Here's Carlotta over here. Here is Daniel. Here is Amelia. And here is Fabio. So 4 name storms at once. That is really, that's a big deal. With a La Nina out here, a weak La Nina, cold neutral kind of setup, you're seeing this much activity. Wait until we get into the Atlantic, and wait until I have to show you this something, because things are really going to kick butt here. The barbecue, the spark of the fire is going to be triggered, and I think we're going to have a lot to contend with. All right, so 4 named storms in the East Pac. Only 1 named storm in the Atlantic right now, but that is soon to change. Once we go into mid-August and late August into September, we could have 4 or 5 named storms, maybe even as much as 7 named storms at once. Who knows if that even happens in September. But if it happens, we will make up for the rather slumber to the Atlantic over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So another way we can look at this now, for those that are watching, we look at symptoms, all right? So you're going to look at the models right now, and you're going to tell me, David, there's nothing going on out there in the tropics. Stop hyping this up, dude. You're just trying to do this to get views, all right? But I want to make it clear that deterministic models are not going to do good at these type of situations until they actually develop, until the favorability. Right now, the favorability is not quite over Africa yet, and it's right now over the central and western. Actually, it's over the western Atlantic and in the eastern Pacific right now. So the models are not going to do good until we get the favorability going exactly of what actually ends up happening. Reality will help futurality, in other words. So we can tell you right now, there are countless of tropical waves coming off of Africa. We have another one right here. It's very hard to take note of. Let me zoom in with my mouse. We have another one right here. We have another one here. And wait until I show you continental Africa. It's going to show you even more coming off. And then look at this wave still tries to develop, still tries on the European model eventually with another wave and then another wave after that. And again, this is only August the 12th. So when we look at this map, and I'll show you what this map means in a second, really we're just getting into the favorability zone. So even beyond the European model here, things are really going to get cooking. And there's another tropical wave right here. Look at this. Maybe a duo here, and then another one coming off of Africa, and a little bit of a wave remaining here, and then maybe another system. We will see if that actually develops. But I'm just telling you, we know what's coming. Looking at the GFS model, nothing on that run just yet, but I can tell you there's probably going to be something out of this. This is a pretty strong ridge out here. So anything that does try to develop is going to move generally off towards the westerly direction, okay, off of Africa. So let's go to our velocity potential. And I want you all to listen carefully with what this means. I try to be as simple, as easy to understand as I can possible. And for that, we're going to use our full screen sector here. Okay, our full screen sector. Actually, yeah. So you don't have to look at my tabs. Here we go. This is probably a little bit better. So look at me. Everyone, turn your attention to me so you all understand what this is. So this is the European Ensemble Control Velocity Potential Anomaly. So as you know, air has to go somewhere across the world, right at the equator. When it sinks in one area, it has to rise in another area. So this is basically what that illustrates. So to put this into simple terms, we showed you this last night. So let me turn this off so you can see this better. These lines going across are timestamps, okay? So these are timestamps going all the way across, okay? All the way across. I'm just going to draw this quicker, so I'm just not going on and on and on and on, okay? So these are timestamps, and then right going north to south are your longitude lines. So you have your 120 degrees west here, 60 degrees west here, and then you got Africa. That is all in the green here. Okay, and then down here is your Mercator projection map. So, you know, Earth is not flat, folks. It's round, but we can stretch this out. This is Africa right here. Right here's Africa. Here's the Indian Ocean. Here is Indonesia. Here is the Western Pacific, Central Pacific, Eastern Pacific, Central America, even including the Caribbean and the Central Atlantic and back over Africa. So you can see here the thumbnail for reference of what we're looking at here, okay? So when we see this, we can see when things become favorable, okay? When we can see these waves get more agitated, more aggressive when they come off of Africa. And right now, to be specific, Africa is not open up for business right now through at least August the 10th and the 11th. Things look fairly quiet out there in the far eastern Atlantic. But once we go into the 13th and the 14th of August, look what happens. All this blue, folks, is upward motion. The atmosphere is going to do this. Upward, rising motion. A standing easterly African wave is going to set up over this area. This is a really big problem because it's going to allow these tropical waves to get more conducive. And if that's not enough, let's take a look at our MJO forecast. We can see that here on the MJO. Not a very big signal, but it's there. And when we zoom in, again, similar to with what we looked at here, this is basically a visualization of what those phases are. Phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1 again. So when we go and look at the diagram here, I know this is a little complicated to look at. Okay, I understand where you're coming from on that. But we can see that the MJO right now is over here. So it's still in the Eastern Pacific, in the Central Pacific, but it is expected to slosh all the way over into phases 2, 3, and 4. And some of the ensemble members bring this even further out of the side of the unit circle. So we got even phases 2, 3, and 4. So now, as simple as it sounds, these three phases right in here, I'm highlighting those. Right here, this, and this are really favorable, conducive moments of the MJO to give hyperactive activity, especially this season because of the very warm Atlantic waters. So we can see a huge uptick here by the time we go into the middle to the latter part of August as the MJO moves into this area. Okay, it's been very dormant in the unit of circle, but is expected to get outside of that by the time we go into the 14th to 15th of August, and it's going to come right with climatology, okay? And things are going to end up in the wrong way very quickly. I just have bad intentions about this, folks. I really do. I forgot to show you the GFS version of that. If we go to here, let's go down to this. We can see even the GFS is picking up on this signal over here. Look at the green line is the ensemble mean, and all the gray and dark gray colors indicate where it's headed into. So even the GFS is picking up on the signal. Phases 2 and 3 and 4, historically speaking, are the most active phases of the MJO that give rise to countless numbers of tropical storms, major hurricanes, and we saw Beryl underneath that favorable, conducive environment back in early July. It's coming again. We need to be ready for this. Models, and again, put down this on your notes, on your notepad, folks. Global models, deterministic models are not going to show anything, all right? They're not going to show anything at all. And do not think that, oh my gosh, there's nothing through the 20th of August. What the heck, David? This is through the 21st. I mean, really, you're going to not see activity through the 21st. I think we are going to. If we don't, then there's something else in the atmosphere that's preventing such a busy period. But I think that is an understatement, because if we look at the European over Africa, we're going to do the vorticity thing again. We can see, actually, you know what? We're going to use the deep layer moisture. So for reference, this is Africa right over here. It's hard to tell, but you can kind of get the idea. Here is the Cabo Verde Islands off the coast of Africa. When we look at our deep layer moisture plot, we can see that things are going to slowly get going. Look at all this moisture rumbling off of Africa. Here's a nice, good, organized tropical wave. Look at that little puppy there. Really organized. And when we go forward beyond that to the GFS, look at this tropical wave. Mighty goodness. Lots of moisture. And then another wave, and then another wave, and then another wave. These are lining up. You could see that. And then when we look at the upper level environment, look at this easterly African jet that is screaming across the upper levels of the atmosphere over Africa. Anticyclonic flow here. This is very volatile. This is really conducive for a very busy period coming. Just take my word for it, because you wait, you watch. I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now that we're going to have a very busy period by middle and late August. And that seems to stand at this given time. Okay. Now, the thing you got to look for too is assuming, okay, each of these waves could develop into something. That's what we look for. We're not looking for a tropical storm in any individual model right now. We're looking for the symptoms. Like before you get a very bad cold, you might start getting a scratchy throat. You might start sneezing and coughing a little bit. You know, the whole cycle, the whole phase of getting a cold. This is similar with the GFS. We're starting to see the symptoms on these models that a busy period is coming. Okay. All right, so we're almost an hour here. Gotta move on. Gotta scoop my butt here. So let's take a look now at climatology in relative sense, for those that are wondering. So this is where we are at. So I need you all to understand that we're not supposed to have this amount of activity in the Atlantic just yet. It's supposed to be rather quiet. This is where we are at now. Look at that arrow that I've pointed towards. See the red? See this graph? We're only right here, roughly. We got to go way up here on the mountain. So by the 10th through the 12th of September is historically when the Atlantic is at its busiest. Now, this year, it's probably going to be busier even longer because of our very warm Atlantic waters. So I would not be surprised if we get a lot of activity all the way into early November, perhaps even into middle of November, perhaps even. So we have a long way to go, okay? It's coming. It is coming. It may not be like 2005 or, say, 2017 or 2020, but it's going to be an impactful season, okay? We're only here. We have a big mountain to climb. Think about going on Half Dome. We have a long way to go up on the mountain of Half Dome, climbing the cables. We're about to climb the cables here. By the time we go to the 10th of August is theoretically when things I do see change. Really quickly, looking at sea surface temperatures, really quickly, then we'll get to quick questions. We're only going to have questions for like 5 or so minutes. All right, so let's go to our upper ocean heat content. So this is, and our sea surface temperature, something happened. Oh wait, here it is. So we can see, of course, the Gulf of Mexico really warm. By the way, this may not seem very warm to you, and you're thinking, well, whoa, there's a lot of yellow now. That's good. The heat has been chugged away at the Gulf of Mexico. But let me see if you guys can see what I'm seeing on the map here. And I'm seeing a concerning legend on the red side of things. You know what this actually is up here? You know how warm these waters are? You would probably guess it. 33 Celsius. So if we do our conversion, Celsius to Fahrenheit really quickly. Celsius to Fahrenheit. That's 92 degrees Fahrenheit. 92, almost 92 degrees Fahrenheit. That is alarming. That is really warm. And still additional warming is going to happen because guess what? There's not a whole lot of wind and a lot of upwelling that is going to be happening over the next couple of days. So this area could warm up even further than what we're seeing right now. And even over here, 30 Celsius, 31 Celsius, this is not cold at all. Even so, there's green and blue colors. I mean, this is only 29 Celsius. 3 Celsius needed more to get tropical storms and hurricanes, major hurricanes. And so 33 Celsius is on the extreme side of the scale. So yeah, that's what the Gulf looks like. Upper ocean heat content really quickly is extreme. Look at this. Over the central portion of the Caribbean, we're looking at extreme amounts of upper ocean heat content. Look at this. Even in the Gulf, really significant upper ocean heat content. And sadly, this is not going to get agitated anytime soon just yet because Debby did something like this. It stayed away from that area of higher upper ocean heat content. So this is untapped, this is undisturbed, and it's only going to get even warmer than it already is. Yes, the Gulf is getting really spicy right now. In fact, if we just take a look at our actual tropical sector here on the sea surface temperature actuality, yeah, there is a couple of areas here, 33 Celsius. 33 Celsius, that is incredible. Even over here, still extremely warm. We'll see if this does get chugged away a little bit more, but otherwise, really warm in the Gulf. This is warming up in a hurry, almost at 31 Celsius here in the northwestern Gulf of Mexico. So yeah, if we get anything that is really strong in this area, it's going to get really crazy. Thankfully, Debby didn't, but that doesn't mean that these waters are not capable of causing rapid intensification. All right, we're going to get to questions really quickly. I have like 4 or 5 minutes. 4 or 5 minutes. And actually, I'm going to set my timer because I do have to eat dinner. I am hungry and got to eat. So we're going to set 5 minutes on the timer. 5 minutes. Okay. Starting now. 5 minutes. Ask your questions. How many hurricanes will hit Florida this year? I would not be surprised if we get additional 1 or 2 more landfalls with Florida. Because we already have had one, and I think we're going to have another 1 or 2 more. I strongly believe we're going to have 1 or 2 more. What's the level of risk in my area of flooding? I forgot where you live. Actually, if I forget where you live, folks, I'm so sorry. There's a lot of you that I cannot keep track of everyone's location. But Dark Steve, yeah, location, please. DJ Tech and Gaming. Right now, the first tropical wave, or no, the new one. Again, we are not even sure. DJ Gaming. If we look at the ensemble out to 10 days, this is a huge spread, very big spread. So I'm not even making any speculations right now. I mean, if we go back, only a couple in the first 7 days think that this is going to become something. Could the Gulf potentially get to 34 Celsius? Probably not. That's if it gets to 34 Celsius. Let's see. If we do Celsius to Fahrenheit, if it gets to 34 Celsius, that's 93 degrees Fahrenheit. That would be absurd if that even happens. That's 13 degrees more needed. So you need 80 degrees Fahrenheit to get a hurricane. If you get 93 degrees Fahrenheit in any part of the Gulf, you're going to have rapid intensification. You're going to have some crazy systems. And this is a look at the Gulf right now. Do you think climate change has made our good season numbered? Things are going to get worse each year. I do believe it's climate change. People say it's global warming. I'm not going to get to the politics side of weather with, oh, it's global warming, our ice is melting and everything. I'm not going to get into that deep sense of things because people have their different views on it. But I can say that our ocean temperatures have gotten warmer over the last decade, over the last 10 years. I've seen it for myself. Are they as warm as, are the water temperatures in the Gulf are as warm as last year? They're actually about a quarter of a degree Celsius. Actually, no, they are running about a half a degree Celsius warmer than they were last year at this time. Do you think Georgia will have more hurricanes? I'm not surprised if Georgia gets another hurricane or near miss of a hurricane this season. In fact, let me see if the European ECMWF, if their Seas 5 is already out. Does North Carolina get river flooding on the Pamlico and Rain? So Pamlico Sound and the rivers up there will likely flood significantly. Historic flooding is not out of the question. Especially in Charleston, South Carolina, and even in southern North Carolina, you could certainly get a lot of flooding. So this is for September, October, and November. This is the August outlook right now. Now, you might think that, oh, it downtrended a little bit, but now it's covering November. So just outside or within the hurricane season, but the more downside of the season. So we are looking at still above average precipitation numbers over here in the central deep tropics, in the Caribbean, and in the Gulf of Mexico. Nothing has changed much with this. Versus our June outlook, you can see what it looked like in the same time frame. And actually, if our tropical storm frequency has updated, and it has updated, but of course, this goes all the way out into February now, so it's not capturing the season very well. So this is hard to kind of look over, but still looking at above average activity, even into November and maybe even into December. All right. The alarm has went off. So whatever question you have answered before that time, I will get to. Okay, so yeah, New Jersey is likely to get a lot of flooding. Yeah, definitely, Dane, Clement, I do agree. Again, just a big exercise for anyone. Your guys are going to look at models. I know a lot of you. Raise your hand in chat if you use tropical tidbits, and then we will close it down from there. Because if any of you use tropical tidbits, you're not going to see anything on the tropics, and you're going to tell me that, Dave, what are you talking about? There's nothing coming off of Africa that is significant. Again, look for signals and symptoms. Do not look for individual name storm or whatnot, because you're not going to see anything. For a great exercise, models are only good out to about 5 or 6 days. All right, simply 5 or 6 days. And so we got to really be careful with what we look at here. Okay. Okay. You're very welcome, Tons of Soup. By the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. We will have daily updates on this Debby with latest updates on the tropics. We're going to do kind of like what we did today, and we'll do that for tomorrow. I'm not working. I have school in the early morning hours, but I'm open for the afternoon to doing a live stream yet again on a discussion. I'm going to try to keep these at around an hour long. Nothing too, we're not going to do an 8-hour stream unless something is going to make landfall. And Debby's down to a 40-mile-an-hour tropical storm right now. 45 still, actually. But 40, 45 won't make much of a difference. So, again, you guys learned a lot. Have you guys learned a lot in the live stream? Say yes in the chat if you have, because I want to make sure you guys understand with what I'm showing you all here. I don't want you guys to go without learning, because maybe I can make you guys into amateur weather specialists too. I'm in Tampa, and we had easily 14 inches of rain from Debby. My neighborhood doesn't ever flood, and it's flooded. Yikes. Yikes, 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 yikes. Thank you so much, Fury Stone. I do appreciate it. So, again, you could use maps like this. This is a paid version. You can go to, this is weathermodels.com. So this is not free. You have to be subscribed to use their products. But if you are subscribed, you can view these every 12 hours. These get rendered. And again, green and blue colors indicate upward motion. Red areas indicate sinking motion. So we can see a lot of sinking motion over the Eastern Pacific, a lot of rising motion over Africa. This is through the 20th of August. So we can see through the 20th, this goes all the way out, showing us the symptoms of a very busy period coming. It's not just me, other agencies, you probably will hear them say, we're about to get a busy period. This is probably after Debby. There might be a brief slumber, maybe for about 5 or 6 days, and then it's game on, I believe. These easterly African waves are going to get very strong, and will they develop? That is to be announced. We won't know until those waves are out there in the middle of the main development region. I do appreciate this. I'm glad you guys are learning a lot on the channel. I do. To my best of my knowledge, I'm showing you my knowledge to you guys. So, thank you, DJ Tech and Gaming. I do appreciate it. So for those that are probably wondering about my winter forecast, that is still postponed. It is to be announced. I probably won't have a date set until it's actually uploaded, because actually, you know what? I will probably have that out tomorrow, because I am open. I still need to put some wording into the maps and stuff, and then that should be out for you all so let's see. Tomorrow is Tuesday, so it's probably going to be out probably Wednesday morning sometime. Late morning, probably by about 11 or 12 o'clock, or 10 or 11 o'clock my time, we'll have that winter forecast out. My last winter forecast did really well, so I want to thank you all for viewing that and sharing it and stuff. Actually, I went some agency or some internet people, some news people actually shared my winter outlook to the public, so that really helped a lot. So I will be having that out hopefully in about a day or two, but we will be focusing on the tropics in the meantime. But anyways, thank you all for tuning in. I think that is all that I have for this discussion. Be sure you do subscribe. I mean it, folks. I hate over promoting and stuff, but it is important. And also check out the Discord server, Weather Force. There is a link in the description of this live stream to you where you can join the server. It's free. There's no cost at all. Okay. And of course, subscribe and hit the bell icon. But either way, follow me on Twitter, and I will be back with you more tomorrow with another live discussion on Debby, and we will again give you an update on the tropics once again. We're going to do a kind of a duo tomorrow like we did today. First Debby, and then the tropics the second half. All right. Love you guys. I appreciate your guys' support, and see you back here tomorrow. Peace out.